Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I got a free trench compactor. How about that, huh? I already jumped the gun and did a couple little things to it. We'll talk about that here once we get it unloaded. It's kind of cold and crappy, so let's get it off the trailer. So I haven't got the old forklift running top notch yet, but it should work good enough to get this thing off the trailer. The compactor weighs close to 3,000 pounds, I'm pretty sure. And I think the forklift's rated for 5, so we should be golden. I was barely able to get it onto the trailer with a little Cat 305 excavator. Unreal. Stuck on flat ground on wet metal plates. You just can't win. Okay, give you a little walk around here. So this is what they would call a skid steer type vibratory trench compactor. This is a Rammax brand by Multi-Quip. I believe the model's a 3345 or something like that. Actually, on the nameplate it says RW14 something. But when I look that number up, I can't really find anything. So, I don't know. The 33 model I'm talking about looks just like this. It's got a lot number on it. Obviously, it was in an auction. But it was sitting next to a dumpster at the job site I'm working on. And it was left behind from the last company that was there. And I'm pretty sure they were just going to throw it away. So I asked, and they said, yeah, take it. So took my trailer to work, threw it on there, and hauled it home. Now, I got a little overexcited before I got my camera out. You could see I had the motor cover off there laying on the trailer. Nothing was bolted down. I was able to just lift that off, so that tells me that somebody's been in here before. It had a battery in it. I pulled it out. It was in here, but this was hanging just like you see. Hanging just like you see there. When I got it, so it was already opened up. Somebody's messing with it. The key is snapped off in the ignition. That's no bueno. This cover over here only has like 1 or 2 bolts holding it on, so we'll see what the story is on this thing. I'm betting all the hydraulic functions function if the motor will run. So this has independent drives. These 2 wheels will spin, and then the other wheels will spin, and you have independent control, and that's how you get this unit to turn, unlike the more modern units are articulated in the middle, and they'll pivot and turn all over the place. And I believe this one also vibrates in both drums, which is nice. So as I said, I got a little bit too excited when I brought it home before I got the camera out, and I tore into it a little bit. I threw a jump pack on it and tried to turn the key, but that wiring looks very suspect over there. I wasn't getting any clicking noises, no turning of the starter, no nothing. So I came back here, and these actually come with a hand crank, although of course the crank is missing from this model. But you can start these very easily with a hand crank. And I don't have one of those cranks laying around here, so I took an old junk socket, cut a notch in it so it fits. There's a dowel pin that runs across the inside of this hole in here. So I slide this in here, it engages on the dowel pin, and I should be able to spin the engine over very easily. And she no spin. I'm betting that's why it's parked and why it got left behind. So this is a Perryman diesel motor. I looked it up. Just so happened I found a couple used ones on Facebook Marketplace, not too far from me. But I want to tear into this one first and see exactly what's wrong with it, what went bad, and what's caused it to seize up. I've seen stupid stuff. Actually, my plate tamper that I have, I got it out of a junkyard, and the only thing that was wrong with it, it wouldn't make a full revolution. When you'd pull the rope start, it would bind up. And the only thing that was wrong with it, for some reason, a little chunk of the piston had popped off along the edge above the ring seat, and it was coming up and hitting the head, and it wouldn't let it make a full revolution. I took it apart, removed the chunk, and the chunk was very minimal. It doesn't even affect it. I've been running that thing for years now with that chunk still missing from the piston, and it runs great, fires up. That thing starts reliable every time. So we'll get into this thing and see what the heck's causing it to be locked up like that. So upon a closer examination here, this thing looks like it's had its fair share of abuse over the years. It's a 1993 model. I don't know if I mentioned that. I can see the air cleaner here has a weld across there. That's been repaired. This bracket here holds on that engine cover. The bolt holes are snapped and wallered out on it. Over here next to the lifting eye, this is the hydraulic tank. This isn't a cover, this is the actual tank. It's made out of some pretty thick plate. And on both sides of the lifting eye has been smashed and repaired. That's got weld all through it on both sides. So I'm guessing this hook probably got bent and slammed over into there or something like that. I don't know. And of course these things are running in tight confined ditches all day long. I mean, that's their entire purpose. So the sides are always worn plumb off from scraping up against the edges of the ditches all the time. It's not uncommon to see them like this all rusted on top, because when people are backfilling ditches, if this thing's in the way a little bit, it gets a little bit of gravel sprinkled on it too, and it doesn't really hurt it, but it eats the paint off of it. And yeah, it's probably never ever spend the night indoors, and tonight's gonna be no exception. As soon as I'm done tinkering with it here, it's going back outside so I can get old Forky back in here. So let's pull that valve cover off and see what we can see there. I'm always talking up the wobble sockets with a 3/8 impact in the garage here. I don't care what your color poison is, but if you don't have one of these in your shop by now, you're missing out. That baby's on there. Okay, let's play a game. What's behind door number 1? That sucker's on there. I think this plastic washer is holding us up. Sometimes they really get jammed in there. Yeah, that sucker is threaded on there. That's a good washer. I cannot tell, but something is holding up this valve cover. Something springy. I don't want to break it. Doesn't make any sense. I know absolutely nothing about Perryman diesels, by the way, so if you know anything about them, let me know down in the comments. Ah! It's a stinking oil return line that I'm catching on. And it's quickly dumping a puddle of oil on us. Nice. Oh! What are the odds that thing's ever been off? Phew. Here comes even more oil. Oh yeah. There we go. Well, that valve's open. Free moving. That one's not. Huh. So after some considerations, I think I'm just going to go ahead and rip the whole head off and see what the story is in that bore. I don't know what's behind door number 2 here, but I'm betting it's not a trip to Hawaii. This stinking breather hose running to the intake. Really on there. I cannot get it off. I do not want to hurt it. It's one of these steel braided lines. Man, that thing is on there. There we go. Man, that thing didn't want to come off. Well, moment of truth. Let's see what's behind this head. Oh, well, the head doesn't look too bad. Interesting. Jug wants to come off. I don't know if I want to pull that jug just yet. The real kicker could be that this motor isn't locked up at all. It's hooked directly to a hydraulic pump, and if the hydraulic pump is locked up, the motor would be locked up as well. Being that the jug moves easily on the piston, that leaves either bottom end or the hydraulic pump. We tore this head off for nothing though. Kind of a gamble either way. Nice thing about this style of head though, and these Germans are always thinking, is this is a brass sealing ring in here, and there's no like paper or metal gasket that we have to worry about. We can just bolt this right back on there. We're good to go there. So I was starting to get concerned that I might have actually torn this head off for nothing. I mean, I did find a stuck exhaust valve, but that wouldn't have held up the engine. I pulled off this little access cover here around the governor assembly, and I can see we've got a little bit of carnage down in the bottom. Not sure what that is. It's pretty thin. Almost looks like a one of those locks that you'd put on the rod nuts. It's a thin piece of metal, or maybe it's a shim. Not sure about that. A few other pieces in there I can see. Oh yeah. The oil seems to be magnetic. Yeah, we've got carnage in there. Yay! So, at least now we know where our problems lie. I'm gonna bet 100% that's why they quit using this unit. Just a bunch of metal shavings and bad news down there. What I was afraid of, but you'll have that on these big projects. So I am disappointed that it wasn't just something stupid. I don't even know what something stupid would have been that I could have just got this thing running again. You don't get that lucky too often, like I was talking about with the compactor or the plate tamper. But I can't afford the space to keep this whole thing in here, so we'll go ahead and just pull the motor off now, and I can set it over there on the bench and tear it down. And now there's not a whole lot of parts availability from what I'm seeing online. So there is a supplier and a dealer for them down in Florida somewhere. So I'll probably call them and price out parts to repair this after I see what's all wrong with it. And if it's going to be too much money, I'll just source a replacement, because let's work on cleaning up our mess and yanking this motor off of here now. Oh, now I got that cover off. You can really see down into the belly of the beast here. We're going to take these bolts off, and hopefully this hydraulic unit can just slide back enough, or I'll unbolt the motor and slide the motor forward enough to get this off without having to disconnect any lines, because I don't feel like making a big hydraulic mess right now. Okay, and there's been a development, and I don't understand this. Maybe one of you guys down in the comments will have an idea. But I went to slide the jug back on because I had pulled it up, but so far I hadn't had the piston, you know, move. The crank had been stuck, which is what I thought was wrong with this thing. But I went to slide the jug back on, and the piston actually went down with it. So I got my tool back here, and I stuck it back in here. Thing spins over pretty decently. I do hear some sort of bearing noise, and I'm definitely not going to disregard all that trash in there, but I don't understand how it was stuck when all that I've found so far was a stuck exhaust valve. You know, the push rod, sure, if I was up against the exhaust stroke, I wouldn't have been able to turn it the right direction, but I should have been able to turn it the other direction. You know what I mean? I don't see how that could limit it to being completely seized. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Alright, well, since I got it spinning now, futile as it may be, I'm going to go ahead and pull off this oil filter housing, and that should allow me to see into the bottom of the crank, just to see what's going on in there. Because for as much debris as I found in the oil pan on the governor side, you know, I didn't feel anything grinding or chopping. It actually feels pretty smooth. There's a kind of like a divider plate over here that keeps me from seeing over into the crank side through this inspection port. So we'll go ahead and pop this thing off and see what we can see on this side. Didn't even get crap everywhere. What fun is that? Everything I've seen so far looks really nice, except for the port on the exhaust side. There was a little bit of rust in there, and I'm sure that's why that exhaust valve is stuck. And I don't understand how water could have gotten into the exhaust side. If it was the intake side, I'd say fine, but the exhaust side's all inverted. I don't know how water ever got in there. Alright, so the cover's off of there. Whew. The old O-light shedding some light on the situation. Now we can see, I don't know if you guys can see, a bunch more shrapnel down there in the bottom end, laying on the pan. And I still can't be, I'm pretty sure it's a rod bearing at this point. There's a lot of heat marking here on the crank. I don't know if that's showing up on camera. But to wiggle it back and forth here, doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of slop for all the carnage we're seeing. Let's take it a full revolution here. I mean, for all this carnage down here, let me see if I can get my little paws onto it. Ow, it's sharp. Yeah, look at all that. I mean, there's just a pile of it back here. I'd be stunned if it's not a main. So we can get this cap lined up and just go ahead and pop the cap off there, see what we're looking at. I just like to try to guess and see what things are before I actually rip them apart. Okay, this is going to be the last mystery door we have to open on this engine. Let's go ahead and see what's behind here. Oh. Thought she was going to start turning on me. Oh yeah. Yep, she is frazzled. The reason there wasn't any slop in it is because the pieces actually broke loose and went underneath of each other and wedged themselves tight. Wow. The crank, we won't know until we get it out, but the crank doesn't look too awful bad. Hopefully we can just get that lapped or something and be good. At this point, we might as well go ahead and yank this, yank the jug off on the piston. There's a hole in that there engine. Alright, now that we definitely found our problem with this little engine, we'll go ahead and definitely remove it, throw it up on the bench and start tearing her down. And finally, success. Ended up having to pull off this flywheel cover because there's a rubber rag joint for the pump in here and it wouldn't fit through the housing. I don't know how the heck they put it together because I doubt it was the way I just took it apart. But yeah, let's get this thing carried over to the bench and get this rest of this heap out of here. Okay, not too bad for a free project, huh? Maybe not a home run, but it's definitely repairable. This is a low priority project for me. I just got really excited about getting it, so I had to tear into it. So the next video you guys see on this thing, you're going to see me finish tearing down the engine. We're going to inspect for damage and source some parts for it. And if it's too expensive, we're going to go another route. My biggest concern is that that crankshaft is in usable condition. Hopefully we can just soak it in some acid, get the deposits off of it, polish it back up, and she's ready to go. So let me know down in the comments if you think this thing's worth saving. Also, if you have any experience with these Ferryman diesels, let me know down in the comments what you think about them, if you had good or bad experience with them. Anyways, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next week. Later.